Hotep, everybody. This is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network and host of the African History Network show. It is Monday, August 26, 2024, and we have a special edition of the African History Network show for you. Today, I am joined by Lacy Dawson, who is the Director of Leadership and Organizational Development at the Economic Justice Alliance of Michigan, also known as EJAM. How you doing today, Lacy?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Hey, I'm doing all right. All right. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about, you may have seen our post here on social media. We're going to talk about poverty and the systems that uphold it, because there's a very special panel discussion that the Economic Justice Alliance of Michigan has coming up on this week on Thursday, August 29th at the Calvary Presbyterian Church of Detroit.
That's right.
And I'll be on the panel, and to tell us more about this and give us a preview, we have Lacy Dawson. So Lacy, poverty and the systems that uphold it. Give us a brief overview of what we're going to discuss on Thursday, and how we can get a better understanding of what poverty is and how to attack it.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Mike. We will be
no problem.
We were having a really robust conversation about poverty. And most folks think poverty is just folks being lazy, people not having a job, or individuals who just don't want to have any kind of good life. And over maybe the last year or two, driving through the city of Detroit, I've just noticed in certain areas of our city that there's a concentration of power in certain areas, not power of poverty, I should say, and a concentration of power in certain areas. So you juxtapose those two things, and it kind of made me think, and the individuals that I work with at the Economic Justice Alliance, think about, how do we discuss poverty? How do we talk about it as citizens? Do we have these robust conversations about poverty? And if not, why not? So one of the issues of the why not is some folks just think people that are poor are just poor because they want to be poor. Some people think that people that are poor are lazy. And so we decided to do a 3-part series on Thursday. It's our second event, which is at Calvary, as you just announced. But the first event, what we wanted to do was put a face on poverty. And so we had a Facebook Live, and we invited 2 moms to come to the show. Both of them have homes. Both of them have cars. Both of them, if you were to look at them on the surface, you would think middle-class family, no issues, no problems. And both of them were able to explain to folks that, hey, I live in poverty every day. I'm one paycheck away from, or one big incident or tragedy away from disaster.
Right.
And they also explained, like, in trying to get out of the system of poverty, how difficult it has been for them, and most times continues to be. So we decided, we want to raise this conversation and keep having this conversation even post this coming Thursday.
Okay, post is coming Thursday, and it's taking place Thursday, August 29th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Calvary Presbyterian Church of Detroit. We're going to give you the information here. We're going to post the information here on the event right here in just a minute. Okay, so how to get a better understanding of this and dig deeper, we hear the term the working poor. And also, just so people understand, EJAM is a nonpartisan. Okay, they are a 501c3 nonpartisan organization. I've spoken for them a number of times in the past. So
you've done a great job. So.
Okay, thank you. So oftentimes you have one group of people who talk about, when it comes to, say, SNAP benefits, when it comes to benefits that are associated with poverty or poverty population, they want to put a work requirement on it to get those, to imply that, you have people who are impoverished, who don't want to work, as you say, and they're gaming the system. They're taking advantage of the system, right? But but the majority of people who are classified, who are adults, I should say, classified as impoverished, are actually work. Some of them work 2 jobs. They're classified as the working poor, or low wealth people, which is a new term as well. So to help us better understand this, how is poverty defined? How are you all defining poverty?
Well, poverty is basically not having basic needs met. So whether it's your food, shelter, lights, water, gas, people who live in poverty are not able to consistently and proficiently meet their basic needs on any given day. During the session on Thursday, we will talk about the four different types of poverty. We'll go more in depth with it. Sometimes poverty is something that just pops up in a person's life because of a tragedy. Husband gets killed, you lose a job, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're in poverty. And so we'll discuss that. But the other thing in it is when we talk about anti-poverty strategies, like you mentioned, SNAP benefits and cash assistance and the work program. We have in the state of Michigan, the Leo office actually contacted or contracted with the University of Kansas, and they did a study of our TANF, or our quote unquote welfare system. And they found that we lacked the ability to help bring people out of poverty with the very system that you just mentioned. So we'll go much deeper into that report, but it was startling for me to even be able to see that report was out there. The only way that I found it was that, hey, I'm researching for this upcoming event, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a PDF file about the anti-poverty strategies in Michigan and how they don't work. And then they gave recommendations on what we need to do as citizens and what our state government needs to do in order to shore up that hole, because there's a big problem with our quote unquote safety net, and we need to take care of that.
Okay, so the safety net is one of the strategies where more money needs to be, or more programs need to be created to broaden that safety net, to help bring people out of poverty. Because it's one thing to give people food. You see commercials where it talks about people going hungry, the working poor going hungry, things like that. There's another thing to actually create policies to bring them out of poverty. Okay. So is one of the solutions where more money has to be allocated to actual policies that are designed to actually bring people out of poverty, as opposed to just helping them stay alive in poverty?
So I'll give you an example. Number two, one of the recommendations or the findings of the study was that most families experiencing poverty in Michigan are not eligible for cash assistance, and eligible families still cannot meet their basic needs. So if the majority or a large number of folks who are saying or who are in need of this assistance can't even apply or receive cash assistance, what do they do? What do you do without cash in America? Cash is king in America. So you live in other ways. Another, and then we'll go more in depth with this on Thursday. It says that high MDHHS, that's the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, the high number of caseloads negatively impact the ability of staff to provide effective services to clients. So when we look at that, that is a budget issue. We need to hire more staff. We need to pay staff better wages. And we need to really allocate funding so that the system is more effective. It's no point in pouring money into a system that is really not working the way that it needs to work.
Exactly. So this information is on Eventbrite to register for this. It's called Poverty and the Systems That Uphold It, a series of enlightenment and hope. This is from the Economic Justice Alliance of Michigan, EJAM. It's taking place Thursday, August 29th, 2024, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Calvary Presbyterian Church of Detroit. That's 19125 Greenview Avenue, Detroit, Michigan. 19125 Greenview Avenue, Detroit, Michigan. General admission is free. You need to reserve your spot. So go on eventbrite.com and just search for Poverty and the Systems That Uphold It. Also, we'll post the link here in the thread of the broadcast, and we'll get this flyer up on our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com as well. Okay, so tell people who's going to be on the panel. Let's start with that.
So on our panel, of course, the one and only Michael Imhotep will be spending time with us. Dr. Celie Jefferson will be with us. Dr. Celie Jefferson conducted a study called the Secure Study here in Detroit. That study went on for about 2 years, and she will be discussing the impact of evictions and homelessness on the birth rate for Black women in the city of Detroit. Phenomenal doctor, phenomenal young woman, and she will be able to bring us some great information. Dr. Greg Hicks, who is part of our reparations task force, will be on.
Okay. I know Greg.
Yeah, we also have Tafari Brent, who's an activist, organizer extraordinaire, who will be on the panel. And then Lauren Williams from the Detroit Justice Center will also be there to talk about that side of the system that keeps a lot of folks impoverished. So we're looking forward to and I'm sorry, last but not least, Pastor Berry of the Church of Messiah on the East Side, who has a phenomenal slew of anti-poverty projects at his church. So I'm excited to just even hear about those, but also to hear his take and the panel's take on, what have they experienced in doing their work? What are they seeing? What are the trends? What do we need to know, and how do we need to fight this thing?
Okay, excellent. And for those that may not be familiar with Lacy Dawson, she's a native Detroiter who has a passion for supporting systemic change and transformation in and for marginalized communities. Her mission is to engage and empower citizens throughout Michigan to make collective and individual strides towards eliminating all social and economic disparities which plague communities across the country. Before joining the Economic Justice Alliance of Michigan, she spent 8 years at Michigan Voice, which is a nonprofit civic engagement table, which fights for multiracial political power using data, civic participation, and grassroots organizing. There, she was able to recruit, train, and support numerous grassroots organizations from communities of color across the state of Michigan. She also served as a regional field director for Barack Obama's Organizing for American 2010 to 2012. There, she worked to develop a strong network of dedicated neighborhood and community teams who work together to increase voter participation in Southeast Michigan and assist in getting Barack Obama reelected to office. Okay, so Lacy, explain to people what are some contributing factors to poverty? Because a lot of times when people talk about poverty, we don't talk about really the real contributing factors. We just act like it's just a condition that people are just cursed with or just born with or something like that. But they're contributing factors that put people into poverty and keep them impoverished.
Well, one of the major factors is just not having a living wage. I mean, we did get an increase recently, according to the Michigan Supreme Court. They did rule in favor of increasing the minimum wage, as was intended around 10 years ago, to roughly $12 or so an hour. But a living wage is more so in we want to say $27 to $36 an hour, which seems extreme. But if anyone has been to the grocery store recently and tried to purchase a dozen eggs or a thing of mayonnaise or, a loaf of bread, you see that if I'm making $12 an hour, I basically probably can get the eggs and maybe the mayo, but that's basically all I'm going to walk out of the store with. So imagine having 2 or 3 kids, a husband, a pet. I mean, that is something that will keep people surrounded by a system that, how do you get around? You have to eat, right? Other things, when we look at the criminal justice system, folks do their time, they come home. You have to have ban the box. You have to have other systems put in place for folks to actually be able to get a a real job. I'll tell a quick personal story.
Sure.
And I don't think my brother will mind, but one of my brothers, he did time in federal prison, and he told me while he was there, he was making 37 cents an hour working for Learjet.
Right.
Building these parts for Learjet. But when he came home, there's no way for him to get a job at Learjet, making the amount of money he probably should have been making, way more than
Right. Right. Exactly.
prison that is on them, definitely in poverty. Yeah.
Was this a privatized
So
prison that he was in? Do you know?
I'm not sure if it was privatized, but it was federal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did research years ago on that. I did a presentation dealing with privatized prisons, but also like prison programs where originally it started out with good intentions going back to about the 1930s to get skills to prisoners. But then right around the early 1970s, it started being really exploited. And then you started running into the problem where you had medium-sized businesses or like businesses that people owned who could not compete with the prison labor having competing businesses. They couldn't compete with the prison labor, and some of them were ran out of business because of that. And you're dealing with exploiting prison labor. So there has been over the past few years there has been a concerted effort from the federal government as well as in various states like the state of California to ban privatized prisons because of the exploitation of people's labor. One, but also studies have shown that privatized prisons there's more violence. It's more safety hazards, things like that, safety violations. They take place in privatized prisons. So we're dealing with multiple factors. A lot of times when people talk about poverty, they don't talk about the criminal justice system. And we know that African Americans are disproportionately victimized by the criminal justice system as well. So, what now you mentioned eggs for just a minute ago, and a lot of people don't know this. So first of all, when we deal with inflationary costs, we know that 53% of inflationary costs approximately are associated with corporate greed. Okay. And we just heard that Walmart is reducing the prices of 7,000 items. Okay. And now they could have already done that. We also know that there are pricing wars going on in the fast food industry. So we've heard in the last couple of months that McDonald's is lowering their prices because a lot of people are saying the cost of fast food is too expensive, and McDonald's could have already lowered their prices. But a lot of these corporations made a killing, no pun intended, during COVID. Okay. And coming out of COVID, you had pent up demand, and you have them capitalizing on corporate greed. So you have shrinkflation, where they're charging the same amount of price for smaller quantities. So they go from 12 ounces to 10 ounces, but charge you the same amount. Okay. And you have greedflation as well, where they're just price gouging people also. But a lot of people don't know about this. So there was an article from justfood.com. This deals with price fixing amongst the when it comes to the, let me see how to, okay, right here. This deals with price fixing when it comes to the producers of eggs. Okay. This was an article from December 4th, 2023. U.S. egg producers forced to pay $53 million in price fixing case. Okay, I don't know how many people read about this. U.S. egg producers forced to pay $53 million in U.S. price fixing case. Calmaine, Calmaine, the country's biggest egg producer, said it was disappointed by the verdict and may appeal. Okay, and when you go through, and one of the things that the Department of Justice is cracking down on is monopolies, but also is cracking down on price gouging. Okay, and we've seen that in various areas. But people check this out. So what we're seeing here is corporate greed, which is preying on poverty, and it is helping to contribute to poverty and preying on a situation coming out of COVID. Okay, but this is one of the contributing factors that you're talking about. So, what are some ways that we can attack this? Because poverty, and when you have this discussion and you're dealing with like the state of Michigan, et cetera, are you talking about poverty across all races, or you speaking specifically about African Americans?
For this series of events, we're looking at Detroit. I mean, poverty impacts everyone, and our lens is really on Black folks right now.
Okay.
But when you raise the flag for Black people, you raise the flag for everybody. We know that to be a fact.
Right.
So, poverty is worldwide, and it looks different in different places. Here, I think in the United States, in a city like Detroit, which is under, our reconstruction and our rebirth and our revitalization, my hope in putting on these events is that we shine a light and really give a voice to the impoverished folks here. Okay. I think one of the issues is that poor people don't feel like they're part of the system. I had done some civic engagement work with a group of mothers, and we were challenging them to make sure you get out to vote, make sure you talk to your elected officials. And one woman said, well, and this was after the event was over, she came up to me and she said, well, I really can't do that. I really want to, but I can't do that because I don't pay taxes. So I'm not qualified to do that. And I had to say to her, do you know how valuable you being poor is to the system? Mm-hmm. They want you to, they make money off of you being poor. And a prime example of that, during COVID, my neighbor was so excited. She was like, Lacy, they gave me all this money in food stamps. This is great, right? And I was like, yeah, it's okay. She was like, well, why did you say it like that? I said, because what we're doing is making Walmart and Kroger. Right. And those folks richer. They're not giving you the money because you need to eat. Trust me, because they would have just gave it to you a long time ago. They're giving it to you so that the grocery stores can get big bank. So let's not negate the power of poor people, because if poor people hadn't spent those food stamps or those SNAP benefits, the corporations would have made no money. And how do we continue to pour into a system that just continues to ignore the fact that, not even ignore, but keep people in that cycle of poverty, right? One of the sad stories that I've heard, a lot of folks who are on Section 8, if you make $2-3 over that amount of money that you're supposed to make, then that changes the whole structure of your Section 8 agreement. And a lot of folks say, well, I want to get another job, but if I get another job, I get kicked off of Section 8, and then I have to pay this entire amount on my lease, and I don't have that. Plus the job is not paying, it's $10-12 an hour. It's not paying me enough in order to meet my needs. So it's kind of like a hamster wheel for a lot of people. They're right in it and now they can't get out of it. And as I stated, we'll look at TANF, the TANF funds, the TANF report that was provided to Michigan, to see where can we leverage our conversations and our power. What do we need to be paying attention to? Because I go about my day-to-day life, looking at my little bank statement and thinking I'm okay until I'm not okay. And then I'm just like, 30% of Detroiters live in poverty. And that's 3 times the number of folks in the country that live in poverty. And that's something that we need to be talking about and trying to figure out what we can do together. Post an election, post a presidential election, post a gubernatorial election. How do we stay involved? And how, we all can't be economists or be as bright and brilliant as Michael Imhotep, but we all have a voice. And we can all, gather information and let that be known that we do want to take care of the least of these. So that's what we're trying to do here.
Absolutely. So, what role does, or do you discuss this? What role does student loan debt play in putting people in poverty or keeping people in poverty?
Well, you know, if you don't pay it, your credit score sinks probably to the bottom of the barrel. So chances of getting a loan for your mortgage might be shot. So instead of paying $400 for a mortgage, you now have to go pay rent. And the average rent in Detroit has gone up enormously, $1,250 to $1,300 a month to live in. Some of these places aren't even worthy for rodents to live in. Student loan debt is also, when we think about poverty, we also have to think about mental health. So now I got this
Right.
big $60,000 loan, and they're coming at me every day. And then DTE is coming at me every day. And then the water department is coming. And then car insurance in Detroit, we don't even talk about that. That's like the Beetlejuice or the boogeyman, right? It's just too expensive. So it's kind of criminal to have to deal with and think about all of these enormous bills that you have to pay when your $60,000 student loan might have got you a job where you may make $18 an hour. You might, or you may not even be employed at all. So there's something to be said about trying to leverage power to eliminate student debt so that folks can get from up under that rock, because it is a heavy, heavy burden that some of us were tricked into taking on.
Exactly. As we wrap up here, and I'm going to show the information again, I want to show this article here because I mentioned greedflation, and we were talking about corporations taking advantage of the economy and being able to get record profits. This is an article from Yahoo Finance, finance.yahoo.com, Yahoo Finance. They picked it up from fortune.com. Greedflation caused more than half of last year's inflation surge, study finds, as corporate profits remain at all-time highs. And this article is from January 20th, 2024. So it was a recent article. And it talks about just what we were saying here. But after falling from its blistering pace in 2022, consumer inflation has gotten stubbornly stuck in the 3% range, rising unexpectedly for the last 2 months. We know it's fallen to 2.9% now. Even as wholesalers' prices stay flat or fall. That is greedflation music, offering a clear bit of evidence that excessive profit taking is happening above the raw cost of goods. And yet another progressive economic study, this time from the Groundwork Collaborative, sheds light on the problem, arguing that more than half of the consumer price increases in the middle of last year, 2023, were due to excessive profits, according to the findings. Corporate profits, by the way, remain at all-time highs. So people check out the rest of this article. It talks about how corporate profits drove 53% of inflation during the second and third quarters of 2023, and more than 1/3 since the start of the pandemic, the report found. Okay, so Lacy, once again, give people the details about this panel discussion taking place on Thursday, August 29th.
All right, it'll be at Calvary Presbyterian. That's at 19125 Greenview. It's right off of Evergreen and 7 Mile Road. We'll start at 6. We will provide a light dinner, so folks don't have to worry about, cooking at night. So come on in and enjoy dinner with us. The gist of this is that we want to really, again, start ringing the bell and raising the voices of the most impoverished in our communities. And oftentimes that includes ourselves, folks like me, sometimes living check to check. We also know that our budget and the way that we spend our money in this country, in this state, in this city is our moral compass. There should be no child that goes without food, lights, water, clothing, toilet paper or anything. And in this city, it often happens. I want to raise the voices for, it was a group of children that live right down the street from me. And just recently I saw that the family got put out, right? So all their stuff is on the curb. And I can just only imagine, school just started. So what's going to happen with that? So now you got to change schools, you know, they may not have school clothes. And so, you know, what's happening with our children, our next legacy, our next generation, when it comes to poverty in the richest country in the world and one of the most brilliant cities on the planet. We can do better, and we should do better. So hopefully you all can come out, have the conversation with us, make some suggestions, learn some new things, and just really, really, really work hard and work together to eradicate poverty in our city.
Absolutely. So people register for this. It's free to attend. It's on eventbrite.com. We have the link here in the thread of the broadcast. It's called Poverty and the Systems That Uphold It. It's organized by the Economic Justice Alliance of Michigan. So I'll be there. I'm on the panel. We'll get this flyer up on our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com as well. Well, look, Lacy, keep up the good work. Thanks for inviting me to be on the panel. I'll see you Thursday. And how can people follow you all, Economic Justice Alliance? How can people follow you all?
Check out our website. The website is Michigan Economic Justice Alliance. Check out our website. We have a Facebook page also. So EJM is our Facebook page.
Michigan Economic Justice Alliance. Is that .com or .org? What is that?
.org.
Okay.
Yeah. Or EJM.org. Yeah.
Okay, EJM.org. That's easy. EJM.org.
Economic Justice Alliance Michigan.org. Listen, I know it, but I don't know it. But yeah, check us out.
Okay.
And then just honestly, following you is following us. So because we follow you. So yeah, if you can, that would be great. But more, we really, really want to see folks in the house. And then if I can, Mike, we will be doing this again in September. On September 21st, we will be at the University of Detroit Mercy for a larger event, and we're inviting folks who are supposed to be solving this problem to be there as well. So the University of Michigan Poverty Solutions team will be there. We are also looking for folks from across the state, Wayne Metro, and others who help folks get housing, etc., to be there as well. So we're looking for a robust conversation, and that's Saturday, September 21st. That's an all-day event from 9 to 4. We'll have vendor tables. We'll also have workshops. So we're not just talking about it, we're actually taking action to it. So we'll be back to talk about that hopefully soon too.
Okay, and where's that going to be?
The University of Detroit Mercy, right there on Livernois and 6 Mile, will be in the student center. We'll be hosting there.
Oh, okay. University.
U of D.
Yeah. University of Detroit Mercy. Okay. Yeah. And I'm pulling up your website here. Okay. Oh, okay. I see. It is MIEconomicjustice.org. That's what it is. Okay, we've got that. Okay, we'll get that up as well.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Lacy. Well, look, it's always good having you on, and I'll see you Thursday. Okay.
Okay, see you Thursday. Thanks for all your help.
All right, no problem. Peace.
Peace.
All right, family. So that was Lacy Dawson. Lacy Dawson. Be sure to follow us here on the African History Network, the Facebook fan page, the African History Network, my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, and the African History Network show. Normally we're on Sundays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I couldn't do it this past Sunday. We had a lot going on. So I brought Lacy on today. We're going to be doing some more broadcasts probably this week. There's a lot of stories that I need to get to. I wasn't on, I'm on Roland Martin Unfiltered every Friday because Roland was broadcasting from the Democratic National Convention last week. We didn't have a show Friday. So I'll be back on this Friday. There's a bunch of stories that I'm trying to squeeze in between my work schedule as well. You got one story dealing with We posted on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. You got one story: Trinidad and Tobago redraws coat of arms to remove Columbus's 3 ships. Also, I posted, there's another story that came out late July, early August. I haven't been able to get to. African American and other minority farmers are getting $2 billion from USDA after years of discrimination. We posted about this on our social media platforms and my Instagram page because there were people who were saying this was racist and things like this, but this is dealing with historic discrimination against African American farmers and farmers of color coming from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So this is $2.2 billion allocated to them, and they need more, but this is a big start. Okay, so you have that story. You also have stories dealing with the upcoming debate as well, and all different types of things like that. So it's a bunch of stories that I'm trying to cover. We've been posting about it on our social media platforms, but I want to dig deeper into that. And then also the 1857 Dred Scott case is rearing its ugly head because you have some people trying to say that Vice President Kamala Harris can't become president because of the Dred Scott decision of 1857, but they don't want to say that the 14th Amendment of 1868 overturned the Dred Scott decision of 1857. Okay, and I teach about the Dred Scott decision, that court case, in my online history classes as well. And a lot of people talk about Justice Taney saying that a black man has no rights that a white man is bound to respect. But also they ruled that the Missouri Compromise of 1820, which was created to organize the land that the U.S. got from France from the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. They ruled that the Missouri Compromise of 1820 was unconstitutional because it violated slaveholders' Fifth Amendment right to due process. Okay, that was part of that ruling as well, and that actually nullified Dred Scott's argument, because one of the territories he was taken into was the Wisconsin Territory. The Wisconsin Territory was part of the Missouri Compromise, and it was free territory. So his argument was because he was taken into the Wisconsin Territory, he was therefore free. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled in 1857 that the Missouri Compromise was unconstitutional, which nullified Dred Scott's argument. So there's a deeper, I've studied the case, I teach about this case, I teach about the Missouri Compromise of 1820, as well as the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, which came after the Missouri Compromise, and that opened up the Kansas-Nebraska territory to slavery. Okay, based upon what's called popular sovereignty. And it was leaving up to those territories to determine whether or not they wanted to have slavery as opposed to being dictated by the federal government. So all this deals with law. Your understanding of politics is directly related to your understanding of history. You hear me talk about that before. I'm not just a national political commentator. I'm also a historian, and I teach this history. We deal with all this in my online history classes. So you have that story as well. There are a number of different news stories that are taking place right now that also deal with history. Okay, now I was just on WBLS 2 weeks ago, 2 Sundays ago. I was on Open Lines on WBLS out of New York. I think that's 107.5. Brother Fatin Muhammad and Jennifer Jones Austin. So I was on the radio show, and then I was on their Facebook Live broadcast after that. Later that morning, we did almost 3 hours open line Facebook Live, and we did almost 3 hours dealing with current events, things of this nature. So we're gonna I got to go through, edit that, and we'll rebroadcast that as well. So if you missed that, we dealt with a lot. One of the things I dealt with is how the Electoral College works, because a lot of people don't understand how the Electoral College works, and you have a lot of people talking about voting third party, things like this. No third party candidate has won a single electoral college vote since 1968, when Governor George Wallace of Alabama won 46 electoral college votes. It takes 270 electoral college votes to become president-elect. No third-party candidate has won a single electoral college vote since 1968. And you win the electoral college, you become president-elect by winning the popular vote in the state. And when you win the popular vote in the state, that's how you win the electoral college votes associated with the state to get to 270. You have a handful of states where you can win a portion of the electoral college votes, but most of the states in the U.S. are winner takes all. Okay, so I encourage people to go to loc.gov, the Library of Congress website, or archives.gov, U.S. National Archives. It was the U.S. Constitution that created the Electoral College. You have people talking about we need to get rid of the Electoral College. That's you have a better chance of marrying Beyonce than the Electoral College being abolished. Why? Because that will require an amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Well, what's the process to amend the U.S. Constitution? A bill has to pass the House and the Senate by a 2/3 majority vote, and then it has to be ratified by 3/4 of the state legislature by a 2/3 majority vote. That's the ratification process to amend the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution was drafted in 1787, is adopted in 1789. There's only been 27 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. The first 10 amendments took place in 1791, called the Bill of Rights. So the First Amendment, freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, all of that, that wasn't even part of the original Constitution. That all happened in 1791, known as the Bill of Rights. So it's very hard to amend the U.S. Constitution. To amend means to alter or change. It's a process, and a bill has to pass both the House and the Senate by 2/3 majority vote, and then 3/4 of the state legislatures have to pass it as well by 2/3 majority vote. Well, don't hold your breath on that. I'm telling you right now. Okay. You got a better chance of marrying Beyonce and divorcing Beyonce and marrying Alicia Keys than having the Electoral College, struck down, the Electoral College abolished. So we have to educate people on how this works. We have to educate people on how this works. So there are a number of different other news stories that we're going to get to, and I can't get to them this week. It's going to be this Sunday on the African History Network show as well. So visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for my online history classes there. We have a ton of information there for you as well. And watch our videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, and my Facebook page, and also on Instagram. It's Michael Imhotep on Instagram as well. IMHOTEP, because there's a lot of good stories that we post on my Instagram page as well. I'm starting to use Instagram more also. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, so you can register for this full 12-week online history course. And I'm getting ready to as soon as I finish this broadcast, we're going to jump in the class of my online school and start teaching class number 1. So these classes will be on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're running a little behind schedule today, so I had to get everything set up. But go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, scroll down the page. You'll see the second class that I teach, Black Resistance Movements, Christopher Columbus, the Haitian Revolution, and Black Power Movement, 1492 to 1968. We do that on Sundays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So click right here to register for the second course. You can register for the course bundle for both classes on sale for $120. Click right here to register for the course bundle. This content is PG-13, so you can use this with your children also. I don't do a lot of cursing. It's nothing like that. It's a very visual class. So we have 200 slides in the PowerPoint presentation. video clips that we look at, book references, 80 to 100 articles, and then we have class number 1 of Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade. Click right here to register for that. And the class lesson plan is here for the full course. You can download the class lesson plan. Okay, so there's a ton of information that we cover in this class. I'm just giving you a brief overview. Okay, so have you all learned anything so far? How do you all like this type of information? And who still needs to register for this class? So when we scroll down, we look at some of the other content that we'll cover. We'll look at archaeological discoveries that keep causing the scientists and archaeologists and paleontologists to push the timelines back. And these are archaeological discoveries that show an African presence in parts of the world earlier than people thought. Okay, so there was one good article, Recap Humans Are 100,000 Years Older Than We Thought. This is from the New York Post. We'll look at the lost city. There were 2 lost cities of Egypt. One, dazzling Aten, which was discovered a few years ago, but then also Tanis Heraklion,